There's a guy who did everything right. He has saved 10% of every paycheck since he was 22. Never carried a credit card balance. Drove the same car for 12 years, packed lunch, skipped vacations. By every rule he was ever taught, he should feel ahead. He doesn't. And the reason has nothing to do with discipline. Something invisible has been taxing him his entire adult life. No paperwork, no notification, no opt-out. He never saw it happen, and neither did you. You don't fall behind by spending too much. Sometimes you fall behind by standing perfectly still while the ground moves under you. Here's the definition you've heard your whole life. Inflation is when prices go up. True, and almost completely useless. It tells you what inflation does. It doesn't tell you what inflation is. And that difference is everything. So let's fix that. Prices aren't rising because bread suddenly got more valuable. Prices are rising because your money is getting weaker. The dollar is the thing losing weight, not the loaf gaining it. Here's the image I want you to hold. You have a ruler. But every year, this ruler quietly shrinks a little bit. You measure your table in January. You measure it again in December. It looks like the table grew. The table didn't grow. Your ruler shrank. Now replace the ruler with your salary, your savings, your sense of financial progress. All of it measured with a tool that quietly gets shorter every single year. The number goes up. What it buys goes down. And here's the part that should bother you. This isn't a glitch. Most people treat inflation like weather. Random, unavoidable. Nobody's fault. It's not. Central banks in most major economies actually target a small, steady amount of inflation on purpose. They build it into the system deliberately. Think about why that might be. When money loses value slowly over time, debt becomes easier to repay in real terms. If you owe $1 million today and that dollar buys less each year, your burden quietly shrinks without you paying a single dollar extra. Inflation is, in a very real sense, a gift to large borrowers. But here's the other side. If you're holding cash, saving carefully, being responsible, building a nest egg, that same shrinking punishes you. Every year you sit in cash, the ruler gets a little shorter. Stop and think about what that actually means. Inflation doesn't punish everyone equally. It quietly moves value from people who hold cash to people who own things. It's not a shared tax. It's a transfer. And most people don't know which side of that transfer they're standing on. Inflation doesn't hurt everyone the same way. It quietly rewards ownership and quietly drains everything else. That one idea explains why two people can work equally hard, save equally consistently, and end up in completely different financial positions. But that's only the surface of the problem. The deeper issue is what it does to your mind. Picture two people. Same discipline, same income, same habits. One built their financial plan 20 years ago, the other is building it right now, using the same rules, the same advice, and the same logic. The first person's plan worked beautifully. The second person feels like they're running on a treadmill that keeps quietly speeding up. And they can't figure out why. Nothing visibly changed, but the ground shifted under both of them every single year. Here's the psychology behind why we don't catch it. Your brain tracks the number on your paycheck, not what that number can actually buy. It's a known cognitive bias. You treat a bigger number as automatic progress, even when its real value hasn't moved, even when it's quietly gone backward. Here's what that looks like in real life. The grocery cart that used to be full for $100 now comes home half empty, and you've stopped noticing because it happened one item at a time. That's not prices being weird. That's the ruler shrinking again. You didn't get poorer, your money got smaller, nobody sent a memo. That bias doesn't just affect your paycheck. It makes one specific financial product feel completely safe, when it's actually one of the most quietly expensive decisions you can make. I'll be direct about something. I made this mistake. For years, I kept a large chunk of my money in cash. Not because I didn't understand investing, because watching a number never go down felt like winning. It wasn't winning. It was losing slowly enough that I couldn't see it. Here's the picture. Your savings account pays you a fraction of a percent. Inflation is moving faster than that every single year. The gap between what your money earns and what it loses is widening silently and visibly on every statement you receive. You're not preserving your money. You're watching it evaporate in slow motion. And slow motion is exactly why nobody catches it until it's too late. Here's the psychological trap underneath all of this. Your brain is wired to hate seeing a number go down far more than it's wired to notice a number quietly losing meaning. A statement that says you have more than last year feels like safety. Even when what that money actually buys has shrunk, cash isn't dangerous because it's volatile. Cash is dangerous because it feels safe while it's losing. You'd think the obvious fix is to earn more, work harder, make more money. Here's where almost everyone gets it wrong. Getting ahead of inflation was never primarily about earning more. It's about where your money lives. Wages tend to lag inflation. Cash guarantees you lose to it. But ownership, businesses, property, productive assets tends to rise with or ahead of the same forces quietly draining your cash. Here's the image. Your cash savings are a bucket with a slow leak in the bottom, always losing a little. You can't see it. You can't stop it. You can only watch the level drop. Investing is drilling into a second bucket that fills faster than the first one leaks. You don't plug the hole. You outproduce it. Now here's the part that flips everything you were taught about risk. We're told holding cash is the safe move. Investing is the dangerous one. Over decades, that's almost exactly backwards. Sitting entirely in cash is one of the most quietly destructive long-term financial decisions you can make. You're not avoiding risk. You're choosing the risk that feels comfortable while costing you the most. The safest feeling thing you can do with money is sometimes the most expensive thing you'll ever do with it. Ownership isn't just about returns. It's the only position in this system where the forces working against your cash start working for you instead. But most people don't start there. They try something else first, and it never works. When people start to feel the gap, when the paycheck stops stretching, when savings stop feeling like progress, the instinct is almost always identical. Work more. Earn more. Outgrind the problem. Here's why that instinct, while completely understandable, completely misses the point. Imagine you have a bucket with a leak in the bottom. You pour faster, the bucket empties slower. But it still empties. At some point, you're not solving the problem, you're just getting more tired. I spent years believing that more effort was the whole answer. I wasn't wrong that effort matters. I was wrong that effort alone was ever going to be enough. You can't out-earn a shrinking currency, you can only out-own it. More income poured into the wrong place still drains out the bottom. The container is the part that changes everything, and that realization, once it lands, changes more than just how you think about money. Here's where this stops being about inflation and starts being about something bigger. Inflation is a forcing function. Every year you leave money in the wrong place is a year the system quietly charges you for it, without calling it a charge, without asking your permission, without appearing on any statement. Think about where you'll be in 10 years if nothing changes. Same account, same habits, same default. The ruler keeps shrinking, the gap keeps widening. Not dramatically, not all at once, just quietly, year after year. Now picture the other version. Same income, same effort, but a small percentage of every paycheck is redirected, consistently, patiently, into things that hold value. Same person, completely different decade. The difference between those two futures isn't intelligence, it isn't income, it isn't luck. It's whether you understood early enough that doing nothing with your money is still a financial decision, and it's one the system has already made a bet against. Read that again. Inaction isn't neutral. It has a cost, and that cost compounds just as quietly as interest does. Being behind financially isn't always about what you spent. Most of the time, it's about what you never converted your money into. Go back to that guy from the beginning. He saved. He sacrificed. He stayed disciplined for decades, and he still felt like he was losing ground he couldn't see. He wasn't failing. He was playing a game whose full rules he had never learned. Now you know the rule. Your money is measured by a ruler that shrinks. Holding it in cash guarantees the shrinkage hits you hardest. Converting it into ownership is the only move that changes which side of that transfer you're standing on. You don't need to do everything today, but you need to do something because the clock on this has already been running, whether you knew it or not. If this shifted how you see your money, subscribe. Every week I break down exactly this kind of thing. No jargon, no hype, just the ideas that actually matter. The ruler never stops shrinking. The only question, is whether you keep measuring your life with it or finally build something the shrinking can't touch.